All right, hello and welcome to New Hampshire Cross Talks episode 6. Um, this is powered by Runner's Alley and brought to you by Hoka. So this episode is going to be a little alumni special here. We have Cam Dickson, our special guest here, who is a New Hampshire Cross Country alumnus. You ran for Londonderry in high school way back when, right?
Yep, through 2016.
Yeah, so I graduated 2017 from Co-Brown, so we ran together for a little bit there. Though I think, usually you were a little further ahead than me. So together is kind of a lie, but
I'm sure we butted heads the first 3 years.
yeah, early on at some point.
Mhm.
So yeah, just first off, I want to go over some quick results from this week because we had a lot of stuff going on. First off, congratulations to our Hoka Athletes of the Week, who are Fiona Lee of Bedford and Jonas Teeter of Portsmouth Christian. So Jonas won Pelham last weekend in 16:02, and then Fiona ran down at Catholic Memorial Invitational at Franklin Park and ran a 19:03 for third in that race, which was a pretty competitive race with a lot of Massachusetts teams down there and some of the top New Hampshire teams. So awesome performances from both of them. And then also this week we had Capital Area Championships. It was the 46th year of the Capital Area Championships. Girls race was won by Madeline Lane, the freshman, who won by almost a minute. She ran 19:16 on that course, which is just amazing as a freshman. And then on the guys' side, I don't know when the last time this has happened, but we had another freshman win on the guys' side. Bocelli Howland Vlahakis won in 16:39, just edging out Josiah Conley of Concord in 16:43. And we saw St. Paul's win on the guys' side, which is pretty cool because we don't really get to see them race very much. And then on the girls' side, Concord won for the 11th straight year, which ties their own record of 11 straight years of wins. So pretty impressive from them. And then we also had JV state championships all this week, and we had the middle school state championships were today in the pouring rain at Co-Brown and Dairyfield. So make sure you check out the photos and videos and everything from those meets because it was some pretty hardcore cross country out there today. JV States had good weather, so that was nice. But yeah, a lot of racing this week. So make sure you check all of that out. And then now moving on to our special guest here, we're gonna start off talking about state meet because it's next weekend. It's coming right up. It came up super fast. So when you were in high school, like, say, it's Saturday before state meet. You got 1 week to go. Like, what are you thinking about all this week? Like, after practice, during practice, like what's going on in your head here?
I'd say this is when the kind of long-term nerves start to really kick in. We'd always run a pretty serious workout, either the like Tuesday or Thursday before the state meet, and then you kind of hit the big red stop button immediately after. So suddenly you're not running so much. You just hit a really, really big workout, and you're kind of feeling ready to go, but you have to wait 6 days, and just make sure, I guess, everything's straightforward and healthy for the day itself. It is probably the hardest part about it, the taper and sitting around and doing less, and really nothing else to do except make sure you're tuned up and get to show up for the actual day of the race.
Yeah, you're just kind of like waiting for it for a while, and you're not running super hard. You're not like doing any crazy workouts or anything. So it's just like every day you go to practice and just do an easy run, and it's like it's coming up.
Uh-huh. Talk about it every single day. Kind of exhaust the topic by the time.
Right, just the same thing.
You're through Monday or Tuesday.
Over and over. Yep.
Yep.
So I know when I was in high school, we didn't race the weekend before states. Did you guys have a meet that weekend ever?
I don't think we ever did anything immediately before states. You one or two of the years you have a JV guy in the JV race that you might consider bringing up. So there's I'd say there's that to juggle, especially if they've run really well and you have to make a hard decision. But we'd always stop racing probably 2 weeks out, and then, like I said, run maybe the Thursday before, 8 days out, run a hard workout and shut it down immediately. So yeah, luckily no big meets. Trying to go into it fresh, but
yeah, I mean that probably
is difficult.
Yeah, that probably makes the waiting game harder too, because you don't have a meet that weekend, so it's really like almost 2 weeks of just all you're thinking about is state meet.
Yeah, exactly. And we won, and I don't think we'd normally race against interstate rivals that last race. So we're either down in Rhode Island or you've run Manhattan or something, and you're like, oh, I wonder how much better they've gotten, or if we're going to be good enough to finally pick them off. So everything is eventually revealed, but yeah, definitely the most stressful part of the year.
Yeah, it's like, championship season starts now, and then all the meets just every weekend. It's like states meet champions, New England's. If hopefully you're lucky enough to continue on each meet. So yeah, and then obviously, states has been held at Dairyfield Park, just like for I don't even know how long. A very, very long time. So it's kind of, I like that it's like an experience that everyone who's ever run cross country in New Hampshire, whether it's 40 years ago or right now, like you go, oh yeah, states at Dairyfield, and everyone's like, yep, I ran there. So
yeah, everybody knows exactly what it's like.
Right. So yeah, it's like, oops, sorry, I lost myself for a second there. Yeah, it's just like, you have kind of that connection with like everyone who's ever run in New Hampshire. And I think that's pretty cool. So just like that week getting prepared, like what did your coaches tell you like about the course, or like what are you thinking about the course and like how to approach that?
It's especially when you're I guess when you're near the top of the table, you're eyeing up a lot of small battles, a lot of talking to everybody on the team and making sure everybody can kind of have their best possible race, and you're not putting yourself in a corner or with a strategy that'll totally ruin things. Like we had some pretty different runners on our team, some people that would do a lot better at a Nashua, but can still really pull together a good race at Dairyfields. You just have to you have to run it a certain way. the lead of the 2015 states my senior year was very strange, because you'd have somebody take it out, 30 meters in front of the entire field and go through the mile super, super fast. And then, I would always go on the second hill and then try not to get run down when you're going downhill and on the final loop of the grass. So it's, everybody has their strengths, and you try to play your card pretty late into the game, but also when it would be the most effective, and then just tough it out and see how high you can finish up. So it's stressful. It's a pretty complicated and nuanced course, which is always nice for the big trophies and the big head-to-head state championships.
Yeah, I guess it probably depends on the year too, or who you're running against, because I know one year at divisionals, we were racing Oyster River for the team title, and their plan was just to kind of get up front and just slow everything down.
That was a weird year. Yeah.
So I forget what we went through the mile in, but it was not very fast, and it was really weird because you're at state meet and the gun goes off and everyone's ready to go, and then just nothing happens. But then like you said, some years people just take off, and you hit the mile mark and it's a little bit too fast.
Yeah. That was that Oyster River move was one of the more interesting things I've ever seen. I remember just watching it from the sidelines, and just by the shape of the pack that something's happened.
Yeah. You're that
you realize
look right. Yeah.
That does not look right. And you're you got to give him credit for one of the more unique approaches to it. But it was shocking at the time, but pretty cool to see.
Yeah. So it's obviously when you're an athlete, getting ready to race, obviously who kind of you're looking at in terms of competition. And I think that kind of plays a role in how you're approaching it to an extent. Obviously you can't really base everything off of other people.
Yep.
But it does have somewhat of a sway on kind of how you're going to approach a race like that. And also whether, you're going for an individual title, or maybe you're trying to run well as a team, or whatever your goals are. So, yeah, that's why you do see a lot of different strategies at the state meet. And like you said, playing to your strengths, where you go, oh, this person decided to go out fast on the first mile, whereas this person kind of hung back a little bit and then pushed on the hills. And maybe that's the best strategy for each of those people. One's not necessarily better than the other, because if you're a type of runner that is better just getting out hard and holding on, or if you prefer to work from the back and push in the middle or towards the end, then you have to think about what's best for you when coming up with that kind of strategy. So just interesting running strategy. It's a little more complicated than just going for a run, right?
And it's always one of the most interesting meets, because you have really large swings of points in such small amounts of time, and it's not always just I'm gonna run it this specific way, because actually having the legs and being able to execute it on the day is a whole nother thing. You've seen or have personally in my career seen teams fall into the trap of, oh, I'm just going to hang on to this one guy, or we're just going to hang on to every single individual person in the team that we want to beat. But if it takes you too far out of your own race, and being able to focus on your strengths and what you need to do to be able to to run well, a lot can change there, and that's not even mentioning being able to kind of take the risks that make for some pretty famous moments at these state meets. You need to be able to balance those two things while also kind of being open to possibly making a move that maybe you think you shouldn't, or maybe you haven't made before in the year. And but that's where the fun comes. That's where all the fireworks start happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's state meet. You gotta kind of take some risks, right? You're not going to do anything incredible just by playing it safe. So
Exactly.
we have seen some pretty big moves over the years, and sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. But
Exactly.
that's what you got to do. And then also just like what you said about not kind of focusing too much on just like, oh, I'll stick with like this person or this team or whatever, because you do have to kind of like see the bigger picture of what's going on in the race.
Yeah.
And also sometimes like maybe your plan going into the race like has to go out the window because
Yeah.
you're halfway through and you go, oh, this isn't working, or maybe it is working, but now there might be a better opportunity. And you kind of have to be aware to take advantage of that.
Exactly. Yeah. Something's probably going to go wrong. It won't be exactly how you drew it up in your head, but
Yeah,
that's
you
part
gotta
of
just
it.
just be willing to kind of change things on the fly, and be willing to adjust your race plan accordingly, because it's not gonna go how it's written up on the preview, or else there would be no point in actually running the race. So
Exactly. But yeah, and you guys had some pretty interesting battles between Coburn and Oyster River in those years, and I think you took home a fair few of them. So I was on the other side of that coin against the 2015-16 Pinkerton squad in D1, but yeah, it is it's crazy. It's difficult when you're chasing down and kind of shooting a little higher and trying to chase down a team that might have 3 people in the top 10 or numbers like that. So it's crazy, but we get some really, really memorable battles over the years.
Yeah, super exciting. I'm pumped for state meet week.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so then moving on, we'll talk about running after high school. So you went to Northeastern.
Yes, down in Boston.
Yeah. So, what was that experience like going, Division One and running, in just such a competitive environment down there?
Yeah, it was really interesting. It was I had originally been down to like maybe RPI with a really good Division 3 program, another Division 1 school where I could not have gotten into the team, and Northeastern, but I ended up choosing it, and it was I'd say it was an interesting start. It might have kind of looked rocky from the outside, but it never felt too bad, and it always felt supported. I had like fractured or stress fractured my foot for 3 or 4 months in, but that was like, I guess the big signal to take a full year and really make sure you totally got it right before racing again. So between the December Boston University meet and the next December BU meet, I hadn't touched the track, but it was, I don't know, we did it right, and kind of form and everything else is pretty healthy after that, and everybody had been really supportive. But I mean, it's difficult. There's like, I'd say the hardest part is you have a lot of other stress and a lot of the changes for actually living college life, and I don't know, taking control of your own schedule and your own extracurriculars. And it helps that I felt like I had I had just really been getting going with this whole running thing in high school, so I was still really itching and still really loving every moment of it. But you see some teammates or ex-teammates fall off of it or fall into new passions over the years, and uh, of course you'd rather not have that, but it's going to happen no matter where you go and no matter how high of a level you end up running at. Uh, but after kind of the first 2 tough years, I ended up with the final coach that was coaching the women's team the whole time, but has been my coach since junior year of college. And that brought a lot of kind of stability, and it was kind of just all upwards from there. Like, we went from a little bit more of a very mid low range D1 school that wasn't always getting onto those top 15 rankings for the region every year to really like challenging and pushing into the top 10. So you get a freshman that's really good, or you get a better class, and you kind of welcome the teammates in competition. Like, it's a lot different, especially with the quality of freshmen and new kids that you can bring in. It's not you don't have to build them up quite as much as you have to do in high school. So you can show up the next year and you can be in a worse spot on your team, even if people graduated. But if the environment's right and everybody's kind of there and pushing and sharing for each other, it's I guess that's all you can ask for, and that's when it's going to be good.
Yeah, I think a lot of people experience just that struggling to transition, into, like, as even aside from running, but just transitioning to college life is stressful and difficult, and then you add on, a sport on top of that, especially if it's at like the D1 level, then it's just a lot to handle. Yep. And so, people have to be patient with it and know that, a lot of times you're not going to show up freshman year and just, continue to perform like amazingly, because now, you have a lot of other things to deal with, and also you're just at a new level.
Exactly.
Because when you get to college, like, just the competition level, it's just another jump, and so now, like, everyone you're racing against is super competitive. Like, they're all, just as like well trained and well coached and everything, because, like, at the college level, everyone has the resources to to like train really well and maybe a bit more consistently than in high school. So yeah, it's just like, be patient with it and trust that, like, you're doing the right things, and you just kind of have to get used to it. Like, the training increases, like, your body has to get used to that, and then also just mentally you have to get used to that adjustment. So that's definitely an important thing to, like, for people to realize, like, as they're leaving high school.
Yeah, it's a big change, especially if you had spent most of the time in high school, like, at the tops of fields. But I mean, plenty of people have worked up through the high school system itself, and you just know it's going to be a very similar thing, a little bit harder and maybe a little bit slower, but absolutely that. But we've had a lot of really kind of successful New Hampshire cross country grads, and I think it's and a lot of, like, even our D3 grads have gone on to run way faster than people in D1, and it really just comes down to, like, often how much or well, yeah, how well you transition, but how much you're loving it and want to like keep progressing and progressing. And uh, it's a lot different when you're racing against some some recruits from California that have had like they're year round and they have really really kind of uh, intense high school programs. Like there's a reason a lot of those regions are leading. There are a lot of really really intense New York schools, but I think a lot of our schools do a really really good job of preparing our kids for being able to take on the next level without completely burning out uh, and hating it. That's part of the trouble too. With a lot of the biggest D1 programs is uh, there are some really really good kids who you won't ever hear from again if they just get burnt out on it. But uh, a lot of I guess the mid-size and a lot of the D3 schools do a really good job with keeping the level of sport in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think like it's also so much easier to um, you know, train at that level and just to kind of deal with um, all of the stress and all of, physical and mental, and just that level of training when you're excited about it and you love
Yeah.
doing it because
Hmm.
it's super easy if you're like not really that pumped about running at that point in your life, like, and then
Hmm.
you're being asked to, I don't know, run like 100-mile weeks and like do all these crazy workouts and like, and you're like,
Yep.
I don't want to do this. um, so yeah, I mean, if you kind of can keep that love of the sport and just enjoy running, then doing all of that gets a lot easier, and you can just enjoy that process more, which then
Hmm.
um, obviously becomes more beneficial too. You just get more out of it, and then you're like all that work is gonna pay off.
Exactly. And it's hard to see because you don't always get it as quickly as you had previously. It's a lot of hard work and no progress at all, and then all at once. And
Yeah,
it'll be an incredible jump when it does come, but waiting for it's sometimes the hard part.
yeah. It might
You
not
have
be like
teammates. Yeah.
it might not be, you go, oh, I have this goal for like the end of this season, and like it
Hmm.
might not be this season, it might be
Yeah.
next season or next year, but it's like all that
Mhm.
work is not just disappearing.
Exactly. No, that's always going to be there, and you have teammates running the same workouts as you, and well, why is everybody running different races or different times in races? But uh, everyone's different, and the jumps will come when they come. That's the hardest part is accepting something like that.
Yeah, and then so post college,
Hmm.
and I want to point out like you had a very successful high school career. You're an excellent high school runner, but then I think you would agree with me in saying that your college career was even better.
Yes, it had definitely it went a lot better and a lot higher than I expected. It was well exactly what we were just talking about. Junior year, suddenly things start clicking, and it kind of changes your whole view on what type of runner or what level you want to end up at.
Yeah, so now you know the big thing is like, okay, high school, you're good runner, successful, all right. Like then college, you're like getting even better, and you're like moving up another level. And like you said, it's sometimes it's almost more than you expected,
Oh yeah.
and you're like, oh, now like I'm at this level now. Like this
Uh-huh.
is getting pretty good. And then and then after college, you decided to get into marathon running.
Yeah,
Um,
not a pretty last second decision. There's to kind of lay out the lay of the land. The Olympic trials for marathons are by far the biggest and probably the easiest Olympic trials in athletics or most other sports to get into. But it's a really really fun, semi-pro amateur event, where the last time in 2020 it was in Atlanta, and it's just hundreds of like incredible runners, a lot of people that had just been racing against each other in college, and a lot of incredible marathoners all lining up for the same
yeah, I
exact
mean, it's
race.
probably like the most competitive marathon that you can run.
Probably, yeah. It's just so incredibly deep. But the window closes after the Sacramento marathon that you're looking at in like early December this year. So I basically said I'll run one marathon and hopefully that takes off some of the pressure because I'll either do it, it'll either go well or it won't. And I ended up running Chicago about 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago tomorrow, and got very, very lucky with the weather and how I felt on the day, and nothing going drastically wrong as far as like all the goos you have to eat, uh, staying calm for 20 miles in like an hour and 45 minutes, which is pretty strange compared to a 5K or 10K.
Yeah, so pretty crazy. Like your first marathon, and you just squeaked under the trial standard there. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, it was never going to be way under. Yeah, 45 seconds under. You need to run 218 flat to get into it. So I was, I guess, comfortable enough with that as long as the last 5K, you're hoping that the wheels don't come off. Like everything feels like you could cramp up at any second. So that's the scariest part by far. But uh, you hit mile 24 and mile 25, and it starts to feel, a little bit more real. Uh, but like I said, I was pretty lucky. I had to take like a quick. I stopped for a few seconds, like after the half marathon, and ran a slow 5K split, and then I ran off of like the 5:15 average pace that you're trying to run. I ran like a few like 5:05s after mile 20, and that's when I was like, oh, it's gonna be a great day. Like this is gonna be such a good race for me. And then I hit 23 miles, 5K to go, and the calves and hamstrings just like completely like started to lock up. It felt like they were gonna cramp and just kind of stop working at any second. And yeah, I'm lucky and pretty happy that I felt good with 10K to go, and then just psyched that my body didn't completely betray me in the last 5K. Just held on. That those were just holding on for 3 miles at the end, but it was a blast. Like I said, perfect weather. I didn't even know that the world record was set for like 2 hours after the
oh,
race.
really?
Yeah, I had no clue, but it makes sense to me. Like flat course, super cool weather, not as windy as Chicago normally is. I'm surprised they think like London and Berlin are that much faster than Chicago, but
I think
maybe
yeah,
it's a
you just
weather.
kind of
Maybe
have
it's a
to,
weather thing.
right? You kind of have to have like the right day for it.
Yeah, it was like 80 degrees 2 years ago. So, like I
Yikes.
said, lucky it wasn't that.
Yeah, yeah. I know. Like in Boston, like usually it's not a very fast marathon because it's pretty hilly and 9 times out of 10 you get a headwind the whole time.
Yeah.
But then there was one year, I think it was 2014. They
Yes.
had a tailwind, and
Uh-huh.
the world record was broken because you're just getting blown in a straight line the whole time.
Yeah, that was the Ryan Hall American record year. That was so funny. You're used to seeing the Americans run like 2:12 at Boston, and all of a sudden, what was it? It was 2:06, 2:05, like just an absolutely ridiculous time.
Yeah. So if the conditions are right, then
Exactly.
there you go. Um, but yeah, so I mean, like that's especially impressive just because you were just mentioning before we went live that you know your first marathon normally doesn't work out super well.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong. Um, just relaxing for that long at still a pretty like serious pace. Not having any lingering injuries, being able to actually take like all of your gels and all of the fueling stuff so that you don't crash at 2 hours. It's just a lot more stuff to think about.
Yeah, and I mean you were being pretty ambitious with your goal time too. So like
Yeah.
I'm sure you could have gone out like your first marathon and maybe aimed for like a 2:25 or something and
Hmm.
been pretty comfortable there and but it's like that's not what you wanted, right? So
No, no. I guess I'd say I haven't had the full marathon training experience until this summer, but uh, from COVID, I was running half marathons in COVID. Like I ran Manchester that year and uh, a little looped course down around a lake in New York that was really really fast. So uh, I'd done a lot of like marathon pace runs up to 10 miles, a lot of work like that before. So I had like I guess I had the feel for it, but uh, well, your legs and just muscular system responding on the day is a whole other thing, and you don't know if it's going to work until uh, well, it's too late and you're two
yeah,
hours into the race.
yeah,
So
you
uh,
definitely you see that a lot
yeah.
in marathons where you really don't know what's gonna happen until 20 miles, 22 miles, like because even with like you look at like the elite runners, when they're trying to run a certain goal or like if they're just racing to their maximum potential, like some days it just doesn't really work out,
No.
and that's something you kind of have to live with, in especially in the marathon, just because obviously if you're running like a mile on the track, it's like, oh, I didn't have a great race today, so I'm racing again like next weekend,
Yeah.
which you
Yeah.
can't really
Exactly.
do in the marathon.
No, no. And you saw it with the American women at Chicago. Like it was a great showing. Uh, Emily and Emma and Molly ran like 2:22, 2:23, but a few of them had sights on the American record, which is I don't know 4 minutes faster. And
Right.
uh, if you have cramps or you have to stop or something goes wrong, it's a lot of time and a lot of training. Uh, not out the window, but for a result that you wish it could have gone
Yeah,
better.
not
So
quite
yeah,
what you're
definitely
looking
tough.
for.
Yeah, tough racing twice a year.
Yeah, it's just everything, and especially just in the marathon, like um, there's so much more involved with it that has to go right, even not necessarily in the race, but like um, all of your training up to the race, like the mileage is more, all of your workouts are really long, so there's kind of a bit more opportunity for like injury or like overtraining and just kind of burning out.
Yep.
And then you talk about like just the couple days before, you have to make sure everything goes smoothly with like travel and
Hmm.
getting ready with your taper, your food, like and then that day. You're like, okay, I'm timing like my like food in the morning and getting to the start line, and
Yeah,
I'm sure Chicago is a huge marathon, so it's the logistics of it is difficult because you can't just kind of walk up to the start line with a backpack and
yeah,
throw your warm ups in it like right before the gun goes off, right?
exactly. Well, so Chicago's the, I guess the best big marathon to do this at. If you've run under 230 or 225, you get like a sub elite tent, which is really nice. Like, but still, so you have the tent, you can actually like put your bag somewhere, and you're not standing in the corral for 40 minutes. But even then, we stood just behind a fence next to the corral for 20 minutes. You're waiting for the wheelchairs to go off. Everybody's doing announcements, and it's 45 degrees outside at 7 in the morning. So you're lucky. You're snuck in the side in front of Wave One, just sitting in between Wave One and the elites. So it's a really nice setup, but still, yeah, you're standing around. You're not doing stride outs in the 25 minutes leading up to it. So it's a whole different beast in that regard. It's not like any of the other races that you do.
Yeah, it's tough because say like your local road race, you can do your warm ups like right at the start line. You can just have somebody standing there and be like, "Oh, here, can you take my like jacket or whatever, or like my water bottle right before the start?" And then you just jog over and then you start.
Exactly.
But then, the like I don't know, the ironic part of it is that like the more important the race, or like the bigger the race, the harder it is to kind of do all that little preparation stuff.
Yeah.
Because if you are running some little local race, like you probably don't have a lot riding on it, but then you get to a world major, and you're like, this is a big race, but now you're standing out in the cold for 40 minutes before the biggest race of your life.
Exactly. There are the stories about some of the Olympics where they drag the athletes off the warm-up track with like 30 minutes to go, and they just sit in like a small square room, and the entire like finals heat of the 5K or something is just staring at each other, and you don't have anywhere to run for quite a long time, and then you have to do introductions and walk out like that, and you're not in your normal routine for the biggest day, the biggest event. I know Oregon did a much better job at that at their world champs. They have the cool little track underneath the stadium, but there are some horror stories over the years, I think.
Yeah, it's like, you get into such a routine and you're like, this is all right. I've planned everything, every minute out, up to the start of my race, of like, how you're gonna warm up and get ready and everything. And then, if you get to the race and they're like, yeah, you can't do that, then it kind of throws you off,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just gotta be ready for anything. It's okay. Everybody is in the same boat, and you'll be just fine. But also, you had mentioned the taper week, and just to warn you before you have to go through it again.
Okay.
It's like, it was worse. I was told you'll feel bad, but it was kind of worse and more stressful than I had imagined. Just like 2-week taper, but first week you're still doing workouts. I felt notably worse than when I was running 100 miles a week. And I'm like, why am I working so hard? Like, this doesn't feel right. I still didn't feel like good over the weekend. And my coach was like, yeah, take Tuesday off. And I'm like, what do you mean take Tuesday off? I haven't done this in like 4 or 5 years before a big race. And he's like, it does not matter. You show up to a marathon fresh, or you don't, or you shouldn't be showing up. So yeah, it's like, I didn't feel good. I felt better after I got off the plane and went for a jog, which is never the case. But yeah, it's weird coming down from such high mileage for such a big race. You kind of just you cut your routine, and a lot of your jogging is just no longer there. So it feels weird, but it'll be okay.
Yeah, I've just heard so much about everyone being like, oh, like you're, a week out from the race that you've been training for months, and then like you just feel awful, and that's good.
That's good.
It's kind of
It's
kind of
so
a weird
strange.
thing, yeah.
It's
Uh,
really weird. Yeah.
yeah, so I need to get that in my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I got
It
I
might
got
not.
like a month and a half to go, I think. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You'll like go to Thanksgiving, and the next week you'll be like, am I supposed to feel this bad? Like,
I eat
did
too
something
much
go
turkey or
wrong?
something. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Uh,
Yeah.
I think nobody gets used to it. I think it'll just keep happening. But
Yeah. So basically just to kind of wrap things up here, the idea of kind of this podcast was just to show that there's like so many opportunities in the running world, like once you leave high school, like and a lot of people who are into running in high school, like maybe running in college, but then um, you know if you don't run in college, or even once you graduate college, it's hard because um, you're not on a team, you're not going to practice every day, like um, what do you do? And the cool thing
yeah,
about running compared to like other sports is um, you can just kind of keep doing it like whenever you want. Like you can just put your shoes on and go for a run. You can train for a race by yourself, but then you can also just join like a running club or a racing team or whatever. Um,
yeah,
and you can get into like marathons. You can start doing like trail runs, or there's even still a lot of opportunities like post high school, post college to keep racing like on the track too. So um, I think it's just like it's a cool sport in that um, you can literally just do it for the rest of your life without too much difficulty.
exactly. Five of my running friends, whether from high school uh, or college, have gone, five different ways, and you can come back to the sport whenever you want to. And I've seen many people come back to it. Like you said, in Boston, we have half a dozen clubs, and New England in the Northeast is one of the best places to be for post collegiate club running. And you can do anything from most of the days of the week to showing up to one of the big group long runs, and just kind of having a nice day out. So there's lots of stuff to do. And like you mentioned, us in New Hampshire, and a lot of the people that I know are getting into trail running and some of these big ultras, even at a younger age. So that's probably where I'm drawing the line and calling somebody else crazy at this point, but I'm not sure I should be judging. uh, but there's so much to do. It's an absolute blast. I'd just say like, um, love it. It is like it's there for you for life, and you can come back to it if and when you need to. Take small breaks or reset when you have to. But I don't know. It's treated me well, and I have very little cause to complain. I've met my best friends, my roommates, and 100 people in between in the sport. So I love it.
Yeah, it's like you said about taking breaks. Like I know people who are like, oh yeah, I ran, in high school, and then didn't run again until I was like 40 or 50.
Yeah,
And, they take like 20, 30 years off of running, and then you can just get right back into it. And it's like,
exactly.
start training again, start just signing up for races, and you can sign up for whatever you want. There's something out there, whether you go, oh, I want to hop back on like the track and run an 800, or if I want to do an ultra trail run, or anything in between, is like, if life gets in the way, or if you're just not feeling it, like you can take a break for as long as you want, and running is still right there waiting when you come back. So
Exactly.
it's super cool. And then just the community is awesome, and especially just I think in New Hampshire, like, there is just a really great running community. And I saw that even today at the middle school state championships, like, it was just pouring rain, like super high
Oh yeah.
winds, and like there was a crowd there. Like, there was a ton of people,
Yes.
like, just out in the rain, like getting soaked, freezing, and they're waiting at the finish line, just screaming their heads off,
So cool.
to see all these kids run. So it's just an awesome sport, and we're lucky to have the kind of New Hampshire community, so into it. So
Exactly. Even my past arch enemies at Pinkerton, I'm still in constant touch with. They're great guys, which
yeah,
which made the racing harder, but the
yeah,
it is
it's funny.
awesome now.
It's funny, like, racing against everybody in high school, and you're like, oh, they're like the enemy, like, we have to beat them,
Yeah.
whatever. And then as soon as you graduate, you're just like, oh, hey, like, we both like running. That's cool.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's pretty funny. And then I just want to mention, so obviously you hit the trial standard, so you're going to be racing the Olympic trials in February, I believe it is.
Yeah, it's early February down in Orlando. I heard that they're actually like moving the time a little earlier.
Oh, they are. Okay.
After that scandal with the noon start time,
Yeah,
it
I
was going to be like
remember
75
I
degrees out.
remember they announced it in Orlando, and everyone was like, "Okay, well, they'll have to start
Okay.
pretty early in the morning." And then they were like,
Uh,
"All right, we're starting at noon," and everyone was like, "Excuse me." Um,
yeah, that hit some backlash, so I think it's getting pushed a little bit, but um, it's going to be a blast. It is uh, it's very interesting because it'll be 150, 200 just men and probably more women, and three of them are the people that you'll see come across the finish line on TV and actually take an Olympic spot.
yeah, and
So
everyone standing next to you at the start line has run a 2:18 marathon or faster.
everybody there is very good. uh, Scary good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I think
exactly.
that'll be a super super cool experience. I'm sure you're really excited for that.
Yeah, I'm super excited. It's there are only a few things like that. Like after college, but that's definitely one. And I'll give a little bit plug to club cross country nationals, which I ran last year. And if you're in a club team and they do it, maybe they do it every year, and you go to San Francisco or Florida for it, or maybe they only do it when it comes up to Lehigh.
Hmm.
Which the Lehigh Club Cross Country Nationals are some of the coolest things ever.
Yeah, that's an awesome
Because
course.
you have so many clubs in the Northeast, and everybody just takes vans down. It's really really awesome. I mean, it was gigantic. It was like 500 people the last time it was there.
Yeah, that's like,
Uh,
you get that cross country experience again, like in high school and
yeah,
college and stuff. So
yeah, those are some of the best events. You don't have track. It gets a little bit harder to get to the big events, but if you want to run it, you can run Club Cross Nationals. It's awesome.
All right. Well, Cam, thank you for coming on to New Hampshire Crosstalks. Hope you had fun.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And we'll be on again next week, I think, to preview state championship um, race on Saturday. So we're going to do the kind of state championships preview special podcast, which we will have a lot to talk about. So
No kidding.
we'll see everybody next week.
All right. Thank you.